Before we begin, a note. From the very first time we opened the channel, one of the most connected stories is the story of the book of the Son of Great Knowledge. Despite not wanting to create this story initially, over time I decided to make it to clarify it and also derive from it. The episode contains details not suitable for children, even though the spells in the book are distorted and incorrect. However, I still lament that you read the book even if it's fabricated. It remains akin to reading books on magic and witchcraft. Forbidden to sell or show it. Dispose of it if found. In God's name, we begin. Peace be upon you. Throughout the ages, humans have always been fascinated by every dark and unknown thing. They seek the hidden forces in the universe and are obsessed with the idea of controlling destiny. That's why magic has always been a part of human heritage. From the earliest caves to the palaces of kings to ancient temples, and among many books written about magic, one book became famous. It is said to be the most dangerous book ever written in Arab history, a book full of spells, astrology, and amulets, and symbols used in various types of magic. It's merely a Sufi book on astronomy and numerology, and people have emphasized the danger of what's written inside. Numerous individuals have been deeply saddened by the tragic fate of those whose lives were shattered merely for attempting to read the book, thereby rendering it the most controversial publication to date. Welcome everyone from around the world, and come along as I tell you today about the forbidden book Shams al-Ma'arif al-Kubra. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell so you receive notifications for each new story. And I want you to get this video 20,000 likes before the next video. Your support is with me. Approximately in the year 520 Hijri, 1126 AD, in the city of Buna in central Morocco, which is currently Algeria, was born Ahmad ibn Ali ibn Yusuf al-Buni al-Maliki, who later became known as Ahmad ibn Ali al-Buni. His childhood and its details are completely unknown, but when he grew up, he became known as a student of knowledge who loved traveling, learned the Quran with a different recitation in Tunisia, and specialized in the Maliki school. Afterward, he delved into subsidiary sciences such as astronomy and mathematics, settled in Tunisia, then traveled to An-Nusra. There, he studied under Abu al-Qasim al-Suhaili ibn Bishkawal, the jurist Ahmad ibn Ja'far al-Khazarji, and from Andalusia went to Egypt, specifically Alexandria. There, he studied under the scholar Abu Tahir al-Salafi, and then settled for a period in Cairo during the time of the Caliph al-Adhad li-Din Allah, and did not leave except to perform his unique pilgrimage of Hajj. After that, he returned to traveling again, traveled to Jerusalem, and from there went to Damascus, Al-Ara, and the Arabian Peninsula. Then he returned once again to Egypt. During this period, al-Buni advanced from being a learner to a teacher and became renowned for his knowledge, asceticism, and preaching. He even refused to marry so that neither a wife nor children would distract him from devotion, and he was known for being taciturn, spending most of his days fasting and engaging in nightly prayers. Based on people's words, in his time there was no one better than him in character, nor more learned than him, especially in the sciences of mathematics, linguistics, and astronomy. He was proficient in the beautiful names of God, explaining them in 2 large volumes, in addition to writing more than 40 books. However, despite all these distinguished qualities, al-Buni, after a period of deepening in religious and worldly sciences, began to avoid people more and more, and most of his time became spent alone in the desert. He neither saw nor spoke to anyone, and over time, strange and incomprehensible behaviors began to appear in him. He was always saying that letters and numbers communicated with him and would reveal their secrets. And he knew how to use them for the benefit of humanity. Some people said he possessed miraculous powers, and others claimed that he was destined for paradise. But what is al-Buni's true secret? No one knows. Years passed, and al-Buni died in the year 622 Hijri, being buried in Cairo after living approximately 102 years. After his death, no one spoke of him in books. The information mentioned about him was very limited, and they were also speculative across multiple books, and not reliable either. And for entire decades, no one spoke about him, and not a single relative even knew him until the moment one of his secrets was unveiled. He became the talk of the hour in the Arab world up to today, after 5 centuries since Ahmed al-Buni's death, specifically in the year 1985 AD. A book appeared in the popular library in Beirut, claimed to be attributed to Ahmed bin Ali al-Buni, titled Shams al-Ma'arif and Lata'if al-Awarif, Shams al-Ma'arif al-Kubra. The book consisted of a collection of small manuscripts collected by the Levantine poet Abdul Qadir al-Husayni al-Adhami in 1895. He also added at its end 4 chapters of his own authorship, including a new chapter in which he mentioned that the contents of the book pertain to Sheikh Ahmed bin Ali al-Buni. And this is because not a single page of the book mentions the name of the manuscript's author himself, nor even the date it was written. Any link we establish between Ahmed bin Ali al-Buni and the book itself is based on the assurance of Abdul Qadir al-Husayn al-Adhami. Abdul Qadir clarified how the book's contents are related to jinn and magic. The strange thing was that no one knew where these manuscripts had been hidden all these years before Abdul Qadir came and collected them, and the strangest thing was that even after he compiled them into a book, or rather a large volume, the volume remained hidden and no one knew anything about it for nearly a full 100 years until a copy was made, which appeared in Lebanon in the 1980s of the last century. After that, the original volume disappeared and no one knew its whereabouts. The copy of the book that appeared in Beirut was a very strange book. Its pages were filled with symbols and drawings, with interpretations and explanations of letters and numbers, and if someone tried to read it, they would find it difficult to understand at first glance. 577 pages, divided into 4 parts and 40 chapters, each chapter discussing a specific topic. The strange thing was the book's layout and external design, and some of its chapter titles and contents make anyone who sees it think it's a book from Islamic heritage. It included interpretations of the Quranic letters, the 99 names of Allah, the secrets of the Basmala, and others. But the strangest thing was the letter they found, written by the author himself. The letter that is located on the very first page of the book commences with several heartfelt and sincere phrases of praise and deep gratitude expressed by the author to Allah Almighty. He spoke of the blessings he has been bestowed with and affirmed that the book is nothing but an ongoing charity from his soul, except that in the following lines he began to warn against trivializing the book's contents, or being used by someone who is not specialized in its contained fields to avoid any unintended harm that may occur. But despite the clarity of the message, it did not prevent people from reading it. In fact, this message might have been the reason more people accepted it. The book, like any book available in a public library, was read and copied, and people bought it without anyone knowing that it would mark the beginning of a curse upon people. Because all who read it confirmed that the book is full of strange talismans and charms, and beneath each one is a method and time for their use. And the strangest thing is that all of them use verses from the Quran, the Holy Quran, the beautiful names of God, and the names of the prophets, under the pretense that these are the methods by which angels are harnessed. Not the jinn, and this was the gateway that caused many people to be deceived by its content and the book, thinking of it as a book for doing good rather than evil. For example, in the first chapter of the book, titled In the Compendium and the Secrets and Invocations it Contains, the author discusses the secrets of letters and numbers. Each individual letter of the alphabet carries hidden meanings that not everyone is privy to, and only those with deep comprehension of these messages are able to effectively employ these letters for their specific purposes and services. As he said, for example, that the letter Dal is the symbol of the beginning and the end because it is the first letter of God's eternal name and the last letter of the name of the last prophet sent to earth. He is Muhammad, peace be upon him, and thus this becomes a symbol of permanence and endurance according to the writer's numerical and symbolic calculations. The number corresponding to this letter is 4, and the day associated with them is Monday. Based on this information, we have the capacity to use it for either good or evil, depending on the precise manner in which the talisman is inscribed and its inherent nature. The same applies to all the alphabet letters, from the first letter Aleph to the last Ya. Each letter corresponds to a number and a day of the week. And a method in harnessing and writing talismans. The entire first chapter was about ways to harness the letters for benefit, not harm, like protecting the house from theft, increasing sustenance, protection from snakes and scorpions, and so on, all achieved using talismans along with some rituals. They prevent those who see them from harming those who created them, as they involve performing a certain number of rak'ahs and repeating a specific image in each rak'ah. But it also involved immersing these talismans in rainwater sweetened with honey and then drinking it or performing ablution with it, or even fasting and secluding oneself for a certain number of days and hours and breaking the fast with grape oil, vinegar, barley, and other strange rituals. And in this chapter, the author categorizes the alphabet letters into 2 types, letters of misfortune and letters of optimism. He began talking about letters associated with happiness or letters associated with sadness and so on. The second chapter is titled On Breaking, Distributing, and Arranging Actions. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, and he clearly stated that these are the ideal times to consistently create talismans, carefully based on the precise movements of Al-Amr and Al-Kamil. Thus, for example, he said that each house among the 28 houses of Al-Amr corresponds to a letter of the alphabet, so we find that the letter Alif is associated with a certain day. And this is the day on which a talisman of the letter Alif should be made in order to prepare the jinn, or as mentioned in the book, the preparation of the king. And its purpose is to harm a specific person, but not too strongly, and all of this using the heat of the planet Mars. And this wasn't the only thing mentioned. The chapter was full of talismans for each house, but all of them were talismans with a light effect, intended for light benefit or light harm. Then the author moved on to the third and fourth chapter. He talked about each person's zodiac sign based on their birth date, how it is controlled from the day of birth and the name of the nation, and mentioned the names of angels in these 2 chapters. They are supposed to be the ones who are utilized to serve humans, and the day assigned to each of them along with the symbol or geometric shape that represents them. Each of them has their geometric shape used in creating a manuscript to fulfill a particular purpose. Afterward, he moved on to chapters 5 and 6, where he discussed the secrets of the basmala, i'tikaf, tahajjud, the secrets of seclusion, ascension, and the boundaries here. Although the book contains some dubious elements, it still reaches most people without troubling them, featuring some letters on numbers and their connections to zodiac signs and numerology. Some rituals that aren't very different from those we currently see on horoscope pages and your daily fortune. But with the beginning of chapter 7, the book started to take a completely different turn, becoming much more mysterious and stranger than anything discussed in the previous chapters. We start our examination with chapter 7, titled The Names by Which Prophet Isa Revives the Dead, highlighting its key thematic elements. It is said that they were written on Moses' staff, peace be upon him, but were inscribed as symbols so that no one would know them. The entire chapter was about decoding these symbols and methods of using them, which of course do not revive the dead or anything like that, may God forgive us. This chapter was not the only one with a suspicious title. Chapter 12 was titled Allah's Greatest Name and Its Hidden Declensions. In it, the author used the beautiful names of Allah in writing the manuscripts, and in other chapters, the writer began to reference verses from the Holy Quran. He used them in a specific way in writing the manuscripts and glossaries, and in other chapters, he used the names of the prophets, angels, and supplications in a distorted manner. Symbols and incomprehensible words were introduced among them. The meaning of the writing remains ununderstood to this day. After initially guiding the reader towards beneficial methods and techniques, the book began to direct towards hidden and minor secrets if one exploited them. The results would be the explicit exploitation of humans. For example, among the things mentioned in the book is something called the 4 humors, which the philosopher Hippocrates discussed in the Middle Ages. These consist of blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, each of which is intricately associated with one of the 4 classical elements: earth, water, air, and fire. The result was that phlegm is cold and moist like water, corresponding to the annual season of winter, and the associated organ is the brain. As for yellow bile, it is hot and dry like fire, corresponding to the summer season and linked to the liver. Black bile is cold and dry like air. Its season is autumn and is associated with the spleen. Blood is hot and moist like earth, corresponding to the spring season, and the associated organ is the heart. And through this connection, a person can use one of these elements along with its corresponding phase to create an imbalance among them and control or dominate a limb of the human body and expose it to harm. And this will be one of the most important approaches and most famous methods, except that the desert later adopted them in rituals, magic, and these 4 arts, which are theories used by ancient Chinese medicine to treat people. We could tell you the story of the 4 elements in a single episode. The book not only talks about the methods of magic and the way to write incantations and manuscripts, but also mentions the names of the kings of the jinn who, from the author's perspective, are spiritual angels. It mentions their planets, days, and hours, stating that Saturday is the day of King Kasafiel, ruler of the planet Saturn, and Sunday belongs to the ruler of the sun, Rakiel, and Monday is the day dedicated to King Jibriel, ruler of the command. Additionally, Tuesday is specifically dedicated to the revered King Simsimael, and Wednesday is honorably dedicated to King Michael, the esteemed ruler of the planet Atarat. Thursday is for the ruler of Jupiter, Seraphiel, and Friday for Ain Yael, ruler of Al-Zohra, and he mentioned many angel names totaling over 50 kings. And each of them has under them ministers and servants responsible for executing his commands on planet Earth, and he mentioned the names of the jinn that cause cases of epilepsy, seizures, and loss of consciousness, and of course the most famous one is Azazel, whom cinema and television have made films and series about throughout history. He appears as a massive elephant and does not grant requests unless the one who summoned him bows to him, and he began to enumerate other jinn names. In the tale, figures like Zaytun, Sinjab, and Abu al-Zazi appear, and female jinn such as Aina, Zat al-Mahasan, and Naila are also mentioned. And many other individuals were mentioned, each of whom is commonly used in various types of spells. The book's content, the symbols within, the drawings, and the strange names were a major attraction for people, and that caused its wide popularity in the Arab world. Not only because of its content, but also because of the terrifying experiences people went through. One of the famous stories was about a Saudi young man in his 30s. He met one day with a friend who brought him an old, worn-out book named Shams al-Ma'arif. He told him he found it in his grandfather's old library, and as soon A young man was excited. He immediately took his homework home and started reading it. However, his enthusiasm vanished when he realized he didn't understand most of the words. However, he remained eager to keep the book open and continue reading until his friend called, informing him he was waiting to download and receive it. And while he was on his way to the mosque, he saw a short old man with dark skin and a strange appearance who was looking suspiciously. As soon as he passed by him, the old man reached out his hand to greet him. Instinctively, the young man greeted him back, but as soon as he touched his hand, he felt an electric shock running through his body. The man's hand had become cold like an ice tablet and rough like wood, as if it was full of thorns, so he quickly pulled his hand away. He looked at him and walked away, terrified by the smile that didn't leave the man's face. After that, he started seeing this man everywhere he went. Afterwards, whenever he read the book, he imagined the man in a corner or felt his breath nearby. The man stayed until he chose to discard the book. Another story among circulated tales is about a man in his 20s going through a difficult period during his exams. Because of his circumstances, his concentration was low and he struggled to memorize and study until he discovered an online article outlining rituals and steps to help. Could you please provide the sentences you'd like me to adjust to 21 words? In order to improve the situation, he started lighting a specific kind of incense in his apartment, writing some symbols on a piece of paper and placing it under his pillow while he slept. He did that and was surprised that his concentration and energy levels increased greatly, reducing memory lapses and noticeably improving his exam performance. When he began to investigate the matter, he discovered that these steps were taken from a book called Shams al-Mu'alaja, Son of Healing. He said this was an opportunity not to be wasted and that he had to get the book that saved his future. So he started searching for the book in libraries, and whenever he asked someone about the book's title, he encountered strange reactions. People warned him not to buy it, or people who didn't know anything about the book. Until he reached a specialist in selling rare books, and indeed, he traveled and bought the book from him. Like anyone else, when he opened the book for the first time, he didn't understand anything. He became frustrated, locked it away in the cupboard, and threw it in. Days later, the young man heard strange sounds coming from the cupboard, hiding, clanking, and rattling, and every time he opened the cupboard, he didn't find anything. All he found was the book in its place, its lid. Every time he felt a strange pull towards the book, until one day he decided to finish it. The young man began reading the book. Eventually, he reached chapters about summoning spiritual angels to fulfill their requests. And here, Hassan reached the goal for which he bought the book and began implementing the steps in the book and wrote the talismans that are on its page. But after all that, he didn't feel anything unusual. However, after a few days, he began to notice that whenever he sleeps, he feels someone sleeping beside him. He smells a beautiful scent around him, and on one of the nights, he was surprised to see a beautiful girl in front of him, offering to marry him in exchange for his love. She told him everything she wished for, and immediately he understood that she was a jinn from the book, and he agreed to marry her. After that, he lived with her for years. They had lots of money, cars and companies, until he grew another year, and his father decided to marry him off to make him happy. At that time, the jinn arranged such a step for him, but nevertheless his father agreed. However, on the day of the wedding, they had an incident and the bride died, and his father became paralyzed and died. After that, the jinn stopped appearing to him, and he began losing all his money, and he started having nightmares every day. His life turned into hell until he woke up. Subscribe to channel today. The strange thing is that alongside these stories and many other similar ones, regardless of how authentic they are, since surely the narrator's word is a promise, we will find on the other side experiences of people who do not believe in the existence of jinn and magic at all, saying that they bought the book and read it entirely. Rather, they even tried things from it and did not feel anything, and this is something that increased the mystery and questions surrounding the book more. Is the book really cursed and just a collection of rumors and illusions spread among people? And the more important question, did al-Buni actually author the book, or is al-Buni merely receiving words spoken to him by jinn? Or perhaps the book was written by someone else entirely and only al-Buni's name was put on it? And regarding the credibility of the book's content itself, and whether its contents are true or not, is known only to God. But what is certain is that the original copy of the book is missing and no one knows its whereabouts. The copy being circulated among people now, which will be the content of our episode today, is a distorted and altered version with some changes. Nevertheless, its distribution is prohibited, or to own it in all Arab countries except Lebanon. And even so, the book, even if it is entirely fabricated, it is still treated like reading books on magic and witchcraft. It is not permissible to sell or read it, and anyone who finds it should get rid of it. We've reached the story's end. Share your opinions, and if you have a story you'd like us to tell, write in the comments. And the idea that gets a